Are there questions that people want to raise? If so, I have shared a lot of contents with you, and I think it's a good idea to see whether it has resulted in questions that you want to ask. And let's have a little bit of discourse together, rather than one directional, here, and there, and then there.
I've spoken to both men and women, and I think they tend to say they like an equal relationship, but still looking for those really polarized roles deep inside. And I wonder if you might want to reflect on how this true equality between the sexes, without the confusion of the roles, could be achieved in a unified family.
The question is about dimension and aspects of gender equality in marriage. There are several issues involved here that I can think of. First, men and women are different. They have different temperaments, different ways of looking at things, different ways of expressing things. There is a diversity. And the diversity usually are as such that reflect in biological as well as psychological and mental ways of feeling things and understanding things and experiencing them. And the best way that we can think of them is the complementarity. The man and woman don't become the same, but men and women give equal respect to the uniqueness of each other, and they complement each other and make themselves whole. It's a yin and yang Chinese phenomena that you do, you see. So we should not think of equality as the process of becoming same or doing the same things, because in many fundamental areas we cannot do that. Okay, so that's number one that we have to keep in mind. Second is the whole issue of rights of people in the family. One of the quotations that were read this morning, Abdul Baha spoke about the rights of individual members in the family. Now, we in our society nowadays, we talk a lot about human rights and rights of people. So it would be useful to reflect a little bit about what are the fundamental rights of every individual and to see whether they are similar or different for men and women, okay? Because it is here that most problems arise as far as the equalities is concerned. The way that I categorize issue of human rights is that I say rights are based on needs. In other words, every human being has the right, equal right, to fulfill his or her fundamental needs. Men and women in the family, in the context of marriage, in the context of family, have to have equal rights to meet their fundamental needs. So what are the fundamental needs of people? Well, the first category of fundamental needs are those things that are related to human survival. Okay? Human survival. Meaning, we all have the need for food, for shelter, for clothes, for medical attention, for meeting our fundamental need to education, to occupation, to have a job, to be fruitful, to be creative. These are fundamental needs of people in order for people to survive. Therefore, in the context of the marriage and family, husband and wife have to have equal rights to all of these issues. Neither should be given priority about that, and that's why in the Baha'i writings we see the emphasis on education of women, for example, and girls, and giving them priority to men, because until now it has been an equal process, you see. So that's the first category of needs. The second category of needs, and therefore rights, are related to issues of association, relationship. Human beings have been always focusing on certain needs for freedom, justice, equality. These are the things that in relationships people have been searching for. Women of the world have not had equal rights with respect to their freedom, with respect to justice, with respect to have equal rights to education and this and that and so forth. Women have been given far less of these opportunities to fulfill these needs that they have. The need to become effective agents of change in society, for example. Therefore, it's not surprising in the Baha'i writings we see that the Baha'i society, the civilization that we want to create, should be a civilization in which women would have equal place with men in administration of human affairs, in the running of human society, in determining what kind of civilization we have. So the equality in the family should be as such that would allow women in the family not to be only treated in equal ways within the family, but be given the opportunity to be outside of the family, be in the arena of the society, in the arena of community, and be equal agents in the affairs of society, in the affairs of the community. So the association needs, which refers to those needs of relationships, women throughout history have been given far less opportunity to evolve and develop and take role than men. And now the civilization the Baha'i civilization has to be a civilization characterized by equality of opportunity in that area. That doesn't mean that all women would want to do it. Many women say, I don't want to be involved in hustle and bustle of the outside activities. I'd rather to focus on other issues. But that's fine. The choice is one thing. But not having a choice is inequality. is the whole issue of having the freedom to choose, the opportunity to choose. And that is for everybody, but especially in the context of men and women. Is the third area of human needs is what I call transcendent or spiritual needs. We have survival needs, we have association needs, and we have spiritual needs. Spiritual needs or transcendent needs refer to the issue that every human being has to have the opportunity to evolve and develop in such manner that his or her life will be meaningful, fruitful, joyful process. Okay? Meaningful requires an opportunity to choose your way of connecting with higher forces of life and with God, with divinity. And in the context of that relationship, decide what is the most meaningful for you. It has to be in that context, okay? Their life has to have a fruit. And a woman and a man, they have to decide what would be the ultimate fruits of their lives individually and together. Individually is the equality that, each person has to have the opportunity to make her or his life fruitful in a unique way, fruit of their lives. And then together, the fruits of their lives would be their children that they bring to this world, the education, the service that they give to the community, and so forth. They all have to be considered. An issue of happiness is very important because the fundamental prerequisite for happiness is unity. If you reflect, you will, the times that you have been the most happy in your life, or the times that you have experienced a state of unity, togetherness, or being united within yourself. Your thoughts, feelings, and actions are in harmony. Or you and your spouse are in harmony, and you and your spouse and children are in harmony, or your community. Happiness, the prerequisite for happiness is unity. And also prerequisite for peace is unity. So unity, you cannot get away from unity, I'm sorry. You can't get away from it, okay? And the prerequisite for equality is unity. They're all connected with each other. So the way I understand the issue of equality in Baha'i marriage is not gender equality, is not sameness, but it is compatibility and is a freedom on the part of each member to decide the manner in which they can make their lives meaningful and contribute to the unity of the family. And this, therefore, has to be a process of give and take, and the mundane issues of life, day-to-day challenges of life, therefore, have to be shared in such a way that does not interfere with those fundamental aspects of development of the individual along the spiritual, emotional, intellectual areas and so forth. When you create that, then it doesn't matter who washes the dishes or how many times you take the garbage out, or whether, you did that or that. Those become totally secondary in the context. My wife and I fight the most about I'm washing the dishes and she comes in and says, no, I want to wash the dishes, and we fight. It's crazy, but we do, okay? But the fight is a really something that happens because it is, sometimes you can go overboard in trying to be helpful, and the other person says, I want to do it also because I don't want to feel guilty. You're always one person, So don't be overpowering in that process. Respect, respect the diversity of activities and the things that can be done and so forth. So issue of equality has many dimensions. These are some thoughts that I have about it. There is much more. It would come gradually, You wanted to ask a question or you change your mind? No, come. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, Fafa's already seen it. Yeah. I'm incorrigible. It's a very simple question, and hopefully it won't be a simple answer. Could you further elaborate on what you mean by transcendence? Because I hear this and it fills me with great anticipation, but I have no idea what to do.
Okay. The issue of transcendence and spirituality the way I understand it is the process of us to gradually become selfless, transcend the demands of the demanding, insistent self. Meaning, you see, the way that we have come to be as human beings is that we have a set of very powerful biological drives, okay? And we have a very powerful self-centered ego that constantly says, me, 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 okay? Give me more, I want more, I'm never satisfied, I am the first, I am the best. Constantly is me, 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 okay? So we become totally preoccupied with self, satisfaction of our desires and our wishes, not necessarily our fundamental needs, but our wishes and our desires. And self-centeredness that would then break really the possibility of establishing good relationships. Because if you're totally self-centered, you cannot establish a good relationship, okay? So this condition of total preoccupation with self, this self-centeredness and selfishness is the strongest in infancy. When the baby is born, the baby feels very powerful, very powerful. Because first of all, baby doesn't make any distinction between itself and the surrounding. The baby is the universe, and universe is the baby. They're all one. And the baby says, I am powerful because all I have to do is to make a noise, a cry, and the whole universe moves around. They come, something comes in my mouth, they clean me up, I feel comfortable, and say, that's a good life, I wish, I'm going to continue forever to be that way, okay? And the baby continues, 2 months, 3 months. Sure enough, everything is really nice. Every time you cry or smile, the whole universe moves. Until finally, you just do it a little bit too much, and somebody says, shut up. And you are totally shocked. What? Shut up? Me, the greatest person, the universe? Shut up, and sure enough. And I have to wait and have to cry until somebody comes. And so I realized then that there are two of us. It's me and the other. And I have to be a little bit considerate of the other because the other can say, shut up, okay? So I began to say, okay, it is the two of us. We are going to have a relationship together, two of us. I will smile sometimes to you and with you and for you and so forth so that you will be nice to me. But still, I am the center, okay? And at this level, we are not transcending much. Then we grow up, and as we grow up, we begin to see many more people in our environment and many more relationships and complexities of relationships. But nevertheless, during childhood, we are focused on ourselves. Fundamental focus is on ourselves. Until the time comes when we fall in love, whatever age it is. And it is the first time that we begin to now let go a part of ourselves to connect on the other, okay? To make a little bit of sacrifice of self, because falling in love means letting go a little bit of yourself in order to get a lot from the other at the beginning. That's what happens, okay? So the falling in love is the beginning of transcendent. But it's still at the start of love relationship, love is very self-centered. In other words, you love this person. You go around and say, look how great I am. This person is the one that I love and loves me. Mm-hmm. You see? So you still are focused on yourself, but you have to give some to the other in order to maintain that relationship. Gradually, it becomes more equal, and you have to give more in order to receive more. It becomes give and take process, and hopefully would be balanced. Because if not balanced, then it creates considerable difficulty in the love relationships. Then the next stage of becoming more transcendent, less preoccupied, is when you have children. When you have children, you suddenly give a lot of yourself for dealing with the child. So your love has moved to a next level, a higher level of transcendence. But many parents, they love their children as long as their children do exactly as they want them to do. They never become independent. They don't let their children become independent. The child becomes a tool in their hands. And it creates a very difficult situation for the child because the child doesn't become an individual of his own or her own right. The child becomes an extension of mother or father or both, okay? And, but anyway, if the parent is in a healthy relationship with the child, the parent gives a lot in order to help the child, you see. So these are developmental stages of human love, from total self-centeredness, self-love, to love of one and the other, to the love of a much greater degree of sacrifice of self for the other, until comes the time in which the person becomes gradually more and more, the horizon and the scope of love becomes greater and greater. You begin to encompass in the domain of your love many, many people. Eventually you encompass the whole humanity. You become the lover of humanity. You begin to live a life that is of service to humanity. You begin to have objectives that, you know, that fruitful tree that I was talking about yesterday. You become that fruitful tree that would have fruitful fruits. And the fruits wouldn't be for you, fruits would be for others, to nurturing others, to helping others to live, to helping others to grow. These are all processes of becoming ever more transcendent. And then, of course, the whole idea of dedicating your life to God, to for example, in Baha'is, to the faith, is that whole dedication, that your focus of giving, of qualities and capacities that God has given you to whole humanity, okay? And becoming ever less preoccupied with yourself and ever more being of service to others. That doesn't mean that you neglect yourself. Neglecting oneself or one's family in the name of sacrifice is selfish act, okay? Because we have been all given certain capacities. And these capacities that we have, if we want to be really of service to humanity and service to our family and service to other people, we have to develop these capacities to the best level possible, to the highest level possible, you see. So if you become a most excellent musician, or your most excellent painter, or excellent scientist, or excellent in any area of endeavor that you do, these are all acts of service. And these are all acts of worship, because then you give much more of yourself in this process than much less, you know. Some people think that the process of transcendence is separating yourself from the world, going conditions of reflection and prayer and shaving of your head and you know, things that people do for transcendence, and you know, the other religions have been doing. All of these have been rejected by Baha'u'llah in the Baha'i faith. Baha'u'llah says we have to get into arena of life to develop our capacities that we have to the fullest level possible, and put them at the service of humanity and our own service, for the good of ourselves and for good of others. I remember one time I was introducing the Baha'i faith to a friend, and this friend of mine said, give me something to read of Baha'i writings, you know. And I said, okay. You want something long or short, or you know what you want? He said, you know, I just want something very short, because I can't, you know, I don't have a patience to go through long things. So I gave him a book of hidden words. Hidden words is, you know, few small pages and you know, a small amount, you know. Next time I saw him, I said, how are you? He said, you know, something happened to me. I said, what happened? He said, I started reading at the beginning of the hidden words, you know, and the things that are saying at the beginning, you know, the best beloved of all things in my sight is justice, for example, you know, or oh, I knew of my love for thee, therefore I created thee, and all these exalted things. And I said, my God, if a book starts this way, can you imagine how it ends? So I couldn't, even though I had told myself I'm going to read it page by page by page, I couldn't control myself. I had to go to the end to see what it says. And at the end, I went and it says, those who dedicate their lives to have a job and they take care of their families and give of their resources to other people are the best of the people. Can you imagine how, the beginning starts with all of those lofty things. At the end, it becomes how to live your life in an everyday life, take care of your family, have a good life, take care of other people, serve other people. So transcendence is not a wow, kind of a condition. Transcendence is a struggling through life to become ever better and better and better at what we are and give what resources we have to others. This is my understanding of transcendence. Okay? Any other comments, questions that friends want to make? Yeah, please. You have to stand up and you're going to, you have your microphone? All right. I would summarize what you say. Yeah, just a minute. Yeah. You have to be recorded 2 ways because that is important.
It sort of pertains to what you were saying about the worldviews, and I was really thinking about it a lot. I was thinking, when you're in a state of love, or you're in love or in a relationship, it's not necessarily easy to identify where you are or how your relationship health is, how it's sort of manifesting. At what point do you rely on external intervention, if any? And also, how do you realise your situation? Because other people saying it's like this or like that, but how do you realise it for yourself?
Okay. Now, this is the issue at least at one level related to consultation. At one level related to consultation. Because when we are in a love relationship, especially at the beginning of the process, we are in a stage of somewhat irrational or less rational mode of functioning, as I said yesterday. And that's exciting, and that's understandable, and that's marvelous. There's nothing wrong with it. But because this love relationship may be the path towards creating a unified life process with somebody else, and therefore it would have a fundamental consequences. In the context of the Baha'i faith, teachings of the Baha'i faith, there are avenues and conditions provided for making sure that the process goes in the right way. Okay? The first one is dependent on yourself, meaning that you have to approach the love relationship within the context of reflection, meditation, and prayer. Meaning that you need to take time every day alone and reflect on what you are experiencing, what you are feeling, what you are thinking. Pray that you are guided meditate on ideas that come to you, negative or positive, doubts that would come, or certainties that would come. Many times, when people are in love, they tend to shun the doubts. They don't want to think of the negative. Even though it comes constantly, they say, no, let's focus on the positive, okay? But these doubts, these gut feelings that you get, the intuition feelings that you get, you should pay attention to them. They're important. Don't put them aside. Don't try to cover them up with generalities and niceties of that nature. So that's the role that you have personally. Then at the same time, it's always necessary to consult. In the Baha'i writings, you read that we should consult in all matters. Consultation in all matters. Now, consultation is a long story, and we don't have the time to talk about it. But the idea of going to trusted, tested, experienced friends and say, let me talk with you, let me consult with you, let me get you your objective feelings, is always useful, okay? That could be with your parents, could be with your friends, could be with anybody. But consultation is an essential tool for making sure that we understand where we are in the process of worldview, how we are experiencing the relationship, what are the positive aspects of relationship, what are the pitfalls of it, and so forth. And of course, the third component of it is that if the relationship expands and goes to next level, your parents have the right to say no, And I have noticed that not many parents discharge that right in a rightful manner. I've noticed that many parents don't know what to do. They're trying to hurt their child, or they're afraid they're going to have a fight, or they think that the child has chosen somebody who is not rich enough, or God knows what. They make decisions that not always are, most sublime. So the parents have to learn how to give consent. Giving of consent is a major spiritual responsibility, and it is really something that we have to learn how to do that. But anyway, you have to, the person who wants to get married has to consult with the parents. And of course, always there are institutions of the faith that are available for consultation, So we have to develop these processes that in midst of a frenzy of emotional condition of falling in love, we have enough of an objective sources to check and balance, to make sure that we don't fall into a process blindly. Did I answer? Yeah? Okay. Any other comments, questions before we continue? Yes, please. You have to come here again and just hold that one.
Sorry.
Hold that one.
Is this on? Yesterday you talked about, I have to put my glasses on to see. Yesterday you talked about the three components about inner unity and the three powers of the soul. You referred to it as the three powers of the soul, which earlier you had said were thought and love and will. But then you referred to it as feelings, thoughts and action. That's the same thing, right? They're parallels of the same thing. And then you said that needs to be brought together with our ethical principles, and that we need to make sure that our principles are universal, inclusive, and not exclusive, and that as soon as we exclude someone, then that is no longer a state of unity. Today you gave the example of war and us and them. Can you give an example of what that means in a personal inner unity, and particularly in a family relationship? What would be an example of being inclusive in your principles? 'Cause I don't see the relationship of your personal principles. Inclusive and exclusive, what would that look like? Can you give an example, please? Thank you.
Well, first of all, let's reflect a little bit more about the capacities to know, to love, and to will, okay? Okay. Thank you. We said the human soul, psyche, has three powers: to know, to love, and to choose. Okay. Now, think of knowledge, the capacity to know, as a growing tree, that it has to evolve and grow and have to have a fruit. So what do you think would be the fruit of the tree of knowledge? What we are looking for when we are seeking knowledge.
We use it in action. Understanding.
Yeah, we are searching for truth. We are trying to find truth about something. We are trying to find truth. So we have to search for truth. Or in scientific terms, we have to do research. Right? One of the principles of the Baha'i faith is independent search for truth. And also, the Baha'i faith is scientific in its method. It is scientific in its method. So we conduct research, right? So when you are wanting to develop your capacity to know, both about the physical world, which is research, and the spiritual world, which is the process of search for truth, the ultimate objective is to get to know more and more truth, okay? You never reach to the end of the process. You just know so much and then know more and then know more. This is true both physically, scientifically, and it's true both spiritually. We never finish knowing, okay? And spiritual truth, we constantly have to understand more. That's the reason that we have to read the writings every day and meditate upon them and go deep in the ocean of the writings of the faith, because it doesn't matter how much we learn, there's more to learn, okay? And of course, truth, when is put into practice, what happens? When you are a person who puts into practice, who lives according to principle of truth, what happens to you? You become truthful. Truthfulness is an ethical condition. Truthfulness means a human being who searches for truth and tries to live according to that truth. That's the reason that as Baha'is, we have to be careful to always search for understanding of things, both from a spiritual and scientific perspective. Because if we don't search it from scientific perspective, the spiritual truth can become easily superstitious. And if we, or if we do the scientific truth but not the spiritual truth, what we discover would be limited and also dangerous, because you can abuse it, you see. But when you focus on the process of development of habit of search for truth, habit of questioning, habit of trying to find answers, habit of discovering, this is so fundamental that we learn to do that. We are not at the end of, when we become Baha'is, we are not at the end of discovery of truth. We are at the beginning of discovery of truth, spiritual truth. And we have to constantly expand the horizon and the depth of our understanding. And then we constantly have to be mindful to put whatever discover in action. So we become truthful people, okay? So that's number one. Number two is the whole issue of love, the capacity to love. The tree of love what do you think the fruit of the tree of love is? Of course, we have been talking about it yesterday and today. The fruit of tree of love is unity. True love, the outcome of it is unity. Now, if you are a lover, which means that you are on the path of unity, what would be the quality that you have? You become a unifier, right? You become a unifier. Reflect on yourself. You say, instead of saying, I am a loving person, think of yourself as a unifier. A unifier is a very interesting position. How many times have you thought of yourself, I want to become a unifier? Okay? Because it is a process in which you put love in action. The process of love in action. And as we talked yesterday, for the process of love to evolve, we need encouragement. We need encouragement. Encouragement becomes essential. There are other things that are essential, but encouragement is one of them. But of course, the other one that was very important, we discussed yesterday, if you remember that condition that we, mutual point of attraction that I mentioned, is when you are in love with the divine. You see, constantly your love goes higher and higher and higher. So that love relationship with the divine becomes the source of all love. Okay, love of God becomes love of God. You constantly need to nurture your love of God. And how do you nurture love of God? One of the most important way of nurturing love of God is through prayers. Prayer is the process of strengthening our love for God. If you reflect on what you say in the prayers, Baha'i prayers, especially obligatory prayers, you will see that they are all love talk. The obligatory prayer, think of long obligatory prayer, is a total love talk from beginning to the end. I am, oh no, oh my God, I am lowly, I am this, I'm that. You are the greatest, you are the master. I love you, I have so many pain, I have so many difficulties, I have so many afflictions. You are the only one that I have. The whole thing is a love talk. And the love talk, things that you say to God during the long obligatory prayer, you cannot say it to anybody else. It's all Him. And you raise your hands, you bow, you put your head down, you do all of those things that you do it to your beloved. So if you want to mature your love, say the obligatory prayers every day. Because the obligatory prayer are the vitamins of the soul. If you don't take them, your soul becomes enfeebled. This is the food of the soul. They are essential. You see what the characteristic of vitamins is? That you don't realize the impact of vitamin until you don't take it. When you take it, you feel healthy and you feel good and so forth, but nothing has changed. It is when you don't take vitamins that you feel sick. Okay? If your body doesn't have the necessary nutrients, you feel sick. Okay? That's the reason that in some of the writings you read that say the prayers even if you don't feel their impact, because they are the food of the soul. So the prayers are essential for further advancing the level and depth of love. And it becomes very essential. And then as you do that, you become an agent of unity. You become a unifier, which is a marvelous process to be. Now, the to choose is one of the most difficult aspects of human existence, to choose. In the literature of Persia and countries around Persia, there is a character by the name of Mullah Nasruddin. Mullah Nasruddin is a wise, fool individual. He's simultaneously wise and otherwise. As Hand of the Cause, Mr. Fruitan used to say, some people are wise and some people are otherwise. So we are talking about people who are wise. Okay. So Mullah Nasruddin one day was sitting, minding his business, and suddenly he heard the voice of God. And God said, Mullah? He said, yes. He said, come, I want to talk with you. Mullah got up and went to the presence of deity and bowed. Good morning, God. And God said, good morning, Mullah, how are you? He said, fine, thank you. How are you? And they were good, They said, we're fine. And God was really happy that day, sitting really happy. And God said, Mullah, what do you think of my creation? God said, well. And Mullah said, well, I'm astonished, to be honest with you. It's fantastic what you have done. I said, tell me more. He said, just look what you have done. Look, the physical world that you created. If you had just created there and stopped, would have been enough. what you have done, the atoms, the molecules, the galaxies, everything that you have created, it's just unbelievable. And then on top of that, all these minerals and diamond, and it's fantastic. God said, thank you. And then look at the vegetation and the vegetable world and all these trees and all these fruits and the flowers and everything is. Look at the way you made the pomegranate and put all those seeds together and then wrap them and then put them. Nobody can do it. Thank you. God said, thank you, welcome. And it's the other discussion, okay? So he said, yeah, very, very good. Thank you very much. And then he said, animals. Oh, the animals. Look what you have done. The elephant and the butterfly, it's just unbelievable. All these, and zebra, you just think of zebra. And the lion and, and the snake. And, it's just amazing. God said, I know. And then God said, now I have decided to create humans. And Mullah got all excited. Humans, he said, yes, I think it's about time to create humans. He said, okay, tell me what humans are. And God said, well, humans, we are going to give them many things that are like minerals and plants and animals. He said, okay. But we are going to give them a mind. They can think, they can reflect, they can discover. God, Mullah said, oh, that's exciting. I wish I could have that, Yeah. And, it's really good to do that. And, that's exciting, yeah. And God said, then we are going to also give them this capacity to love. And people would fall in love and make fool of themselves, and we laugh at them here. And, all the follies that people do in the path of love. It would be good to see them, going through these processes. It would be fun. Mullah said, yeah, I agree. That would be good. I'm all for it. And then God said, I'm going to give them a free choice. And Mullah went into deep thought and turned to God and said, God, may I say something? He said, yes. He said, it's a mistake. It's a mistake. You give people with a mind and with a heart a choice, you're going to make mess of everything. You're going to disobey your commands. You're going to make things that are destructive. They are going to put their love on things that they shouldn't because they have a choice. The world is going to get really bad. I advise you, God, with all humility, don't do it. It's a mistake. But Mullah said God didn't listen, and look what happened. You see, this is the area that we make our decisions. What we are going to do with our knowledge and what we are going to do with our love. It is the choice that we make. The choices that we make. Now, when we reflect on the way that people use their will, we see that human tree of will can have two fundamental fruits. One is at individual level, one is at the collective, the other is at the collective level. The fruit of human will at the individual level, the finest fruit of human will at individual level is our capacity to use our will to be of service to others, of service to the world of humanity. That's the finest fruit of human will. Service means a condition of compassion, of detachment, of giving, of generosity, of humility, of kindness, of all of these things vis-a-vis all people. That's service. Okay? And then at the social level, the finest fruit of human will is what? Which is unique to the Baha'i administration. Justice. Human will, until now, has been primarily used in the context of governance of the world in unjust manner. Humanity never has experienced administration of justice on a global level. All we know about history of humanity is the history of injustice, inequality, poverty, war, disease, all conditions that injustice has brought to people. It is not just accidental that the whole structure of Baha'i administration is based on principle of justice. Because finally, we have to learn how to bring about justice to this world. Okay? And it is through the process of establishing houses of justice and individuals, as individuals, becoming just people. Have you reflected on how you can become a just person? Well, Baha'u'llah gives a very clear indication of how we can, formula of how we can become just person. He says, the best beloved of all things in my sight is justice. And then he said, through it, thou shalt see with thine own eyes, and not through the eyes of others. Thou shalt know of thine own knowledge, and not through the knowledge of thy neighbor. That means that you have to become objective. That means that you have to search for truth. That means that you shouldn't accept the generalizations that are made in the society. That means, above all, freeing yourself from prejudice. We cannot become just if we are prejudiced. And prejudice can be both positive or negative. You can be prejudiced in favor of some people, and you can become prejudiced against other people. And we have to ask ourselves, am I prejudiced? And if I am, then what am I going to do about it? How am I going to evolve, to develop, to become a just person? Because we have to become agents of justice through the institutions of the faith, through the Baha'i community, to bring justice to this world. So human will has to be used not to be willful and not changing your mind and being a bonehead and all of those things. That's not description of healthy use of human will. The healthy use of human will is through the process of service and justice. And related to this issue of accepting responsibility for what you do. Accepting it, because people have to accept responsibility for the choices they make. In the gleanings of the writings of Baha'u'llah, we read that something that Baha'u'llah says, if we go to the next world and we are asked why we did this and that and that, and we say, because all the peoples of the world did the same thing, therefore I did it. He said that definitely would not be accepted. Because the fate of no one is dependent upon another. We are, as individuals, responsible. During the war, in Nuremberg trials, after the Second World War, when they brought those awful people who have done those awful things, and they asked them, why did you do it? And they said, I obeyed orders. That kind of a blind obedience is no longer acceptable. We have to accept responsibility for what we do and what we know, and we have to search for truth, and we have to use our will in a manner that if we are questioned, we cannot say, I did it because such and such authority told me to do it. I did it because I reflect on it, understood it, and did it, and I accept responsibility for what I did. You see, Baha'u'llah tries to make us our very independent, capable, thoughtful, searching, questioning, creative people with a lot of courage and with a lot of assurance of who we are. And when we take those qualities in the context of family, then we become able, in the context of the family, to focus both on mercy and kindness and on justice. Many times, family relationships are not just. There are demands on the part of parents or children or extended family members or others that they are unjust demands. And if you go along with the unjust demands, you are not doing kindness. Kindness is when there is an injustice, you try to correct it. You correct it with compassion. In the Baha'i faith, the principle of justice always is put together with the condition of compassion. You give justice, but you connect justice to compassion. And that is essential, that we learn how to do that, how to combine the two, you see. Because justice, Baha'u'llah in the Tablet of Words says, justice, the purpose of justice is what? The purpose of justice is appearance of unity among people, right? That's the purpose of justice. And therefore, the way that we bring about justice has to be thoughtful, compassionate, kind, but it has to be just. It has to be based on truth, the facts, what is the best for everybody involved. And these are difficult tasks, but these are necessary in order to make life better. And yes, please. No, come here. You have to be recorded for eternity. Yeah. Okay. Just a minute. Yeah.
I just in the last. It's working. So that's fine. Thanks. I just wanted to ask your opinion on what the parameters of discharge of our duties as a parent to give consents in what are we looking for in a child and the potential partners.
How soon is going to happen? Your children are here, huh? Oh boy.
That's the question.
Be kind.
My personal experience has been, we have 2 sons, my wife and I. And we discovered that one of the most important issues that helped us in the process was patience. When our children came to us, and our sons, and they said they want to get married with somebody, and we listened and so forth, we said that we need time to get to know the other person. And they need time to get better to know the other person. So it has to wait. And they said, well, we can't wait. I said, well, yeah, it has to wait. And that waiting process was very, very helpful, at least in our case, because they went through several relationships and themselves changed their minds and discovered it wouldn't work. The whole issue of patience is the process of postponement of gratification and not giving way to instant gratification, which then tests the level of maturity of the person and how the person is capable of withstand difficulties or not fulfilling their immediate desires and needs. And by doing that, you get to the deeper roots of relationship and the personalities that they have and so forth. So I think one of the first things is that don't rush into that process. Don't rush. This is good for everybody involved. This is good. And the second part, of course, is that you have to get to know the person that wants to get married with your child. So you have to spend some time. You have to spend some, meaningful communication and connection and understanding. And they have to get to know you. You have to get to know them, because marriage, I tell my children, is a journey of eternity. You're stuck with the other person forever. Okay, so you better think about it. It's a long, long journey, really. And when you begin to talk about issues along these lines, try to understand the other person, try to give yourself time, many things emerge. And those become the subject of consultation between you and your children. And eventually it comes the time that you find, that you can say, yeah, I think we agree. And then that's the time that they decide to begin the process of courtship, which is 95 days, which then eventually get married, you see. So that's the way I understood it, and we did it, and it had worked. So, okay. Well, dear friends, it has been remarkable that you are sitting here for such a long time. I know it's very tiresome. So let's have some lunch, and then at 2 o'clock we get together, and we continue. Few other components